Have you ever been knitting or crocheting something and you're like halfway through the project and all of a sudden you hit a wall? There's no more motivation for you to finish that project, and maybe it's because the yarn doesn't feel the way that you thought it should feel, or the colors just aren't working out very well, or maybe you can finally visualize how the final object is going to look and it does not meet your expectations for what the pattern was supposed to look like. A number of reasons can prevent us from finishing our projects, and it can have a real effect on us as crafters. If you crochet or you knit, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about, and that stress of not finishing a project, DNFing it, or maybe just like shoving that project as far into the back of your closet as you possibly can and trying your best to forget about it. That is a lot of weight that we're holding on to. And today I'm going to talk about why that can be stressing us out and what to do if you have some unfinished projects, how to move forward, whether in deciding that you actually do want to finish them, or whether you want to frog them, or a third option, whether you want to repurpose them for something else. As a creator in today's world of social economics on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, however many likes you get on your project is how we rate the worth of what we're working on. It can be really stressful to pick up a project and then not complete it because it can feel like you just wasted your time doing something. Whether you're creating it for yourself or you're creating it for somebody else, if you spent that much time on a project just for you to not complete it, it can feel really defeating. When we decide to not finish something or not progress in a certain project, it can feel like we wasted a bunch of time. But I'm here to tell you that that is totally false. Now, it is valid that you're feeling that way, that oh, I worked so hard on a project just to not finish it feels really bad. And that's true, it does. But you have to think about the time that you spent as sort of a tuition, right? You're paying your time to do a certain craft like knitting or crochet, and you are learning valuable skills along the way, but you're also just passing time. And your time does not have to be productive. There is a fallacy in the world right now where everything needs to be monetized, everything needs to be productive, and if you are not doing something right now with your time that is producing something or creating something or making something more or improving yourself or any number of things that are moving you further along the path of life, then what you're doing is worthless. And I'm here to tell you that that is not true. You can spend hours and hours and hours knitting something and then completely rip it out, and that is still a good use of your time because knitting and crocheting is not a craft to be productive. It is just a craft to simply pass the time and to enjoy your time. So now that you know my perspective of the time you spend creating things is simply just to pass the time and not to make anything productive, you'll be able to understand my perspective of ripping projects out or not finishing them or deciding to finish them or deciding to repurpose them for something else entirely. And I come from this as a standpoint of I've already spent the time doing it and I'm not going to get that time back. So I need to look at my time going forward. Do I want to spend time finishing a project like this hooded scarf I put down 3 months ago that I have decided to finish? Or do I want to rip out the project and repurpose the yarn for something else, for a future project? Or do I want to repurpose the craft entirely, repurpose the fabric for something else that maybe I can sew something or I can cut it up and use it for another purpose? But all of that coming from the place of it's just fabric and it's just time, and I enjoyed the time that I spent making the thing, and we're just gonna see what I want to do next with it. I'm not tying any of the emotion that I put into the project, and I'm honestly not a sentimental person anyway, so that part of the equation doesn't really fit in for my own opinion and what I'm going to be talking about today. So you've got those 3 options for your project as it sits right now, completely unfinished. And in order for me personally to want to finish a project, I have to ask myself, am I going to wear it? If it's something for myself, I need to consider, am I really going to wear that thing? Or has the project progressed to a point where I don't like the shape, I don't like the color, I don't like the style of it, and I know that once that object is in my closet, if it already existed in its final form, would I ever pick that thing to wear it? And if the answer is no, then I will choose not to finish that project as it was planned. Now, there's those two options of not finishing a project, whether you're going to frog it or whether you're going to repurpose the fabric for something else. So put a pin in that, and we'll talk about that in just a second. If I decide that, yes, I am going to wear it, I like the yarn, I like the color, I like the fit, I like how it's progressing, and I can visually see myself wearing that object in the future, then I will finish it. Now, sometimes in order for me to finish a project, I do need to put it down for a couple of months. This project right here was a self-drafted hooded scarf, and it just got to be a lot of back and forth repeats that I wasn't really too excited about. And I also think that the one side is incredibly long for like a hooded scarf. And I think that I used too much fabric on this side, and I'm going to run out of fabric on this side because this is all of the yarn that I have left. And I'm specifically talking about this Surrey alpaca right here. I definitely don't have enough of that to make the other side of this equally as long. So I've come to the conclusion that I am going to finish this project. It's just going to be asymmetrical. This is another project that I currently have not finished. I have done all of the body for this raglan cardigan. I've even steeked it, which means that if I decide to not finish this project, I can no longer rip it out and reuse the yarn because the yarn got cut. And I did that thinking that I would finish this project in just a couple weeks, but I honestly have not. The intention is to have a zipper in the front here and have this long sleeve raglan style zip up, but I have run out of yarn. I'm almost out of this deep purple yarn here, and I know that I don't have enough of my variegated yarn to finish both sleeves, so I need to buy at least 2 more hanks of yarn to finish this sweater, and so it has just been sitting. Now, we are at the state where I cannot rip it out, and I don't think that I could repurpose this fabric for anything else because it is very thick, and I'm not sure what I would be able to shape it into. It couldn't become a blanket. I might be able to make it into some sort of bag and then felt it in a way, but that doesn't seem like a great use for how much money I spent on this yarn. So both of those are leaning me more towards just finish it and see how much more yarn I need to buy. So that's kind of where I'm sitting with this project. Now, with that project, I did mention the cost of the yarn as a factor that was motivating me to finish it instead of frog it or repurpose it for some other reason. And sometimes that does come into consideration for me. Most often I will purchase yarn and then completely forget about the price that I spent on it. But this one in particular, I'm using Spin Cycle yarn, and if you've ever bought that, you know that it's like $36 a skein. So in my mind, repurposing it just wouldn't be using that yarn to the best of its quality and the best of its ability and for the amount of money that I spent on it. This is another project I haven't finished. Again, this one is a self-drafted raglan top-down seamless sweater. So I worked the raglan part, I split for the sleeves, and then I worked the whole body part. And looking at this sweater in my camera, it is really cute and it does fit me very well when it's on. The reason that I haven't finished this one and that I've put it down for quite a while is because I used both a Surrey and a merino yarn held together. So I'm holding a very fluffy yarn and a regular merino wool yarn together, but I spun that yarn into a single cake, and the elasticity of the Surrey and the elasticity of the merino are different. So when I cranked it into a cake and I was pulling tension on the yarn, the merino wool got really stretched out, but the Surrey didn't stretch. So now as I'm knitting and I'm pulling from the cake, it's really difficult to maintain the tension of both of my yarns together. So this has just been really difficult to knit. Now it is turning out the way that I wanted it to, but to have the yarn balled into a single cake instead of two different cakes, and then also working color work on every single round. So I'm holding two colors on every single round. It just got to be to a point where I wasn't having fun doing it. So I had to put this down to consider picking up at another date. Now I did block this part because I had already finished with the body and I split for the sleeves. And to finish this, I think I might just do some ribbing at the shoulders at the end of the cuffs and just make this a short sleeve. But then to consider if I would actually wear it as a short sleeve, I don't know, because it is so warm. It has the suri and it has 2 strands of yarn the entire way through. So it is lightweight, but it's incredibly warm. This is another project. I had a sister to this project that was exactly this design in this cowl, but instead of using this light blue, I was using white, but the same sort of variegated yarn in here. And I actually decided to frog this morning because when I put on the cowl, it just didn't really meet my expectations for what a project would be. And I don't really see myself pulling for this. I did design the pattern myself, and I don't know if I would really pull for this or if I'm like not a cowl kind of person. I've never worn a cowl before, and I've also never knit one before, and I'm not really sure if I like how it fits on me or if I liked it in these colors and not the other colors. So I did decide to frog that this morning, and I'm going to repurpose that yarn for something else. So my decision to frog it came from just visualizing myself wearing it, and I couldn't see myself reaching for this cowl or the other cowl or even considering finishing that project. I also didn't want to finish that project and repurpose it into anything else. This could make a really cute bag, like a zippered pouch, but that would just be a lot of effort for something that I probably wouldn't really use. So therefore, I decided to frog it. When I'm deciding to repurpose or frog a project, I don't really think about the amount of hours that have gone into knitting that object up until that point. I think about the amount of hours it will take to either complete it or turn it into something else. And then I consider if I'm willing to spend the time to do that. And if the answer is no, I have to consider how much time it will take to frog the project, or if I just want to give up entirely and send the project off to somebody else who would be willing to complete it. I think as crafters, as knitters and crocheters, we put a lot of value into the time that we spend doing things, and rightfully so. We have a skill that we are using to create beautiful things, and we're spending a lot of time picking the pattern and picking the yarn, learning the skills that it takes, and then actually doing the crafting. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of time that goes into that. But at the end of the day, when you're at the point in your project where you need to decide if you're going to finish it, if you're going to frog it, or if you're going to turn it into something entirely different, you shouldn't be considering the time that you spent so far doing that thing. I think we can get really distracted by how much effort we put into something when it really isn't making us happy. And at the end of the day, crafting is about just spending time doing that thing. And it's not about progressing in any way or creating anything or monetizing anything or posting anything or any of those items. Those things are fun. It's fun to have a final object when you're done putting so much work into something. And it's fun posting it on social media and getting a lot of really great feedback on it. And it's fun to show it to your friends or gift it to somebody who's really going to appreciate the thing that you spent so much time working on. But it's your time, and you get to pick how you want to spend it. And if you're not having fun knitting that thing anymore or crocheting that thing anymore, then you don't have to finish it. I give you permission to not finish everything that you start. And you also have to consider that that time is not wasted. You spent that time honing your skills and creating and learning how to get your tension better, or how colors work together better, or you learned a special stitch, or you learned how to cast on in a different way. And you are gaining all of that knowledge, and you're not throwing away that knowledge when you decide to frog a project, or you decide to completely cast that project aside and not even think about it for the rest of your life. All of that time that you spent doing it you are still maintaining that knowledge that you learned, that you had fun doing it, that you spent the time doing it, and all of those things will stay with you as you progress onto future projects. Those projects that we don't finish will help us make better decisions in the future, and they'll be great memories if we decided to repurpose the yarn for something else. And you can think to yourself, wow, this started as something completely different, and now it is nowhere near what I thought it would be, but I'm so happy with the final result. And if we're not happy with the final result, why are we crafting in the first place? I would love to hear your opinions about finishing or frogging projects and how you view your own time that you spend on creating things, whether you knit or crochet as a side hustle, or whether you knit or crochet just because it's fun, or whether you do it to make gifts for people or sell finished objects. I'd love to hear what your opinions are. Having a diverse group of people with differing opinions on all sides of the scale is really important to this crafting community and the community that I'm trying to build online. So thank you for watching my video. Again, I'd love to hear what you think about the topic, about the time that we spend doing things, and how much pressure we're putting on ourselves as crafters, crocheters, and knitters. That said, thank you for sticking to the end of this video. I am about to bring my project to my knitting club and my local yarn shop, and I'm going to ask my friends this question as well, whether or not they view their time as something to just create a final object, or whether they just view it as time to pass because it's a fun thing to do. All right, I'll see you in my next video.